Ferrari is making big moves as new signings are arriving. Red Bull's future development plans have been revealed, and rookies are becoming the new meta. Incoming HAAS. Formula One driver Ollie Bearman has already made important impressions on the American squad concerning his maturity and ability to understand the bigger picture. This is the view of team principal Ayao Komatsu, who has signed Bearman to race alongside Esteban Ocon in an all-new 2025 HAAS driver lineup. Ferrari Junior Bearman, who has been impressing HAAS since he made a rookie practice appearance in Mexico last year, was able to show how he could handle the various pressures of contesting a race weekend for a midfield team involved in a close championship battle with RB during his latest one-off race this year in place of the banned Kevin Magnussen in Azerbaijan. Having finished 7th for Ferrari while replacing the appendicitis-addled Carlos Sainz in Saudi Arabia at the start of the season, Bearman scored another point with 10th in Baku. When asked by Autosport if he had been surprised by this return given Formula 2 driver Bearman's lack of experience at the top level, Komatsu insisted, "I'm not surprised. But this is not to take anything away from Ollie. I'm not surprised because I've seen so much good stuff with him in the FP1s that's what I expected. The very first time he drove for us in Mexico FP1 in 2023, what really impressed me was his ability to understand the bigger picture. Understand the role he needs to play, what he needs to execute, and when. And also, how quickly he can learn." For Baku, the objective was very different. It's a totally different mindset during the whole race weekend compared to just practice outings. But in terms of what he did, what he executed, how quickly he learned, that's everything I saw in from Mexico the very first time we ran him in FP1. Yeah, of course, FP3, where Bearman crashed on his first push lap in Baku, was a setback. So that's one thing I didn't know, how he was going to deal with the setback like that. But then again, he was really good, managed to then switch and be focused, go back to what he'd done well on Friday, and then hit the Q1 like that. So that was brilliant. It's impressive, but that's what I expected. Komatsu also hailed Bearman's maturity when asked to swap positions with temporary teammate Nico Hülkenberg during the first Baku race stint, as the Briton was lapping too slowly obeying Haas's instructions on tire management, when Hülkenberg was showing the tires could sustain a surprise harder pace on the tricky street circuit. What he showed in the race when we had to ask swap positions during the first stint, and then, he wasn't happy, Komatsu added, which I can totally understand why. But then, even though he was unhappy about it, he just did it. He didn't then not let Nico by, and then delayed it for another lap or two. So, again, that just shows the maturity, right? It's great. Bearman's Baku point came after he nipped past Hülkenberg in the aftermath of Sainz and Sergio Perez crashing late on, where the lead HAAS driver did not react to a green flag marker board after passing the incident and hitting debris, when the following Lewis Hamilton did. Bearman following the Mercedes past Hülkenberg showed his awareness and calmness per Komatsu. That's another thing. He's always calm even when he's upset or facing the adversity, he added. He's just very calm. And even that yellow flag situation towards the end of the race with the big accident, lots of debris, but again he was calm. He had a presence of mind to say, okay, Nico's not on it, and just went. Ex-Alpine team principal Otmar Schaffnauer has publicly accused the Renault leadership of the Alpine team of prioritizing their own job security and career advancement over achieving real success in Formula One. In a recent discussion on the High Performance podcast, hosted by former F1 broadcaster Jake Humphrey, Schaffnauer shared insights from his 18 months at the helm of Alpine. He recounted the events surrounding his dismissal during the 2023 Belgian Grand Prix weekend and the complications that arose with Oscar Piastri's contract situation. This issue involved a fierce competition between Alpine and McLaren for the talented Australian driver. Before he joined the Alpine team in early 2022, taking over from Marcin Budkowski, Schaffnauer was assured that he would have the authority to oversee all the different departments of the Formula One team. However, upon starting his role, he quickly discovered that this information was not accurate. He found that numerous departments did not report to him as expected, but instead answered to the Renault board based in France. Schaffnauer stated that this lack of control was one of the key problems at Alpine. He explained, "There were multiple issues at play within the team. One major concern was that I did not have authority over the whole organization. For example, the Human Resources Department did not report directly to me. It reported all the way up to France. Additionally, the finance office, communications department, and commercial and marketing groups were also not under my leadership. This situation posed significant challenges for him from the very beginning. He recalled that what had been presented to him before accepting the position, suggesting that all departments would report to him, was not the reality he encountered. Although he had hoped he could manage despite these limitations, he soon realized that this arrangement would create problems. Schaffnauer elaborated on how this dysfunction became particularly evident when Alpine lost its claim in the Contract Recognition Board case regarding Piastri, revealing that the 2021 Formula 2 champion did not actually have a binding contract with Alpine. He pointed out that the root of this problem dated back to November 2021, several months before he joined, and he felt he had been set up to take the blame for the failed negotiation with Piastri. He revealed, "The contract was never signed. I began my role in March, and I was completely unaware of these details. The team did not file the CRB documents correctly and completely failed to formalize a contract with him. Back in November, there was a crucial 2-week period when this could have been addressed, but nothing was done." As a result, during the CRB hearings, Alpine lost because of these mistakes in documentation. He expressed his frustration when a press release was issued that featured his image, even though the matter had nothing to do with him since he wasn't part of the team when these decisions were made. The communications team, which did not report to me, decided it was wise to shift the blame for the failures of those involved at that time onto me by including my picture in that release. The person who made that decision had previously worked with me at Force India, so I approached her and said, "You know better than this." To my surprise, she responded, "I'm sorry, I was told to do this." This experience illustrated to Schaffnauer that there were individuals within the Alpine organization who could not be trusted and who seemed to have their own agendas. He noted, "They were not collaborative with me. When people prioritize their own career advancement over the performance of the team, such decisions can be made." He recalled a saying from his time at Ford that reflected a similar sentiment. Ford Motor Company didn't make cars, it made careers, meaning that the focus was on nurturing individual careers rather than on actual product excellence. While Schaffnauer acknowledged that this mentality isn't universal in Formula One, he believed it could emerge if individuals from companies like the Renault Group were put in prominent positions within a race team. He concluded, "If the priority shifts from on-track success to career advancement, decision-making will follow that path, leading to a situation where performance is sidelined in favor of personal ambition." After many months of speculation and discussion among fans and experts alike, Alpine has officially announced that they will be ending their partnership with Renault engines. Starting in the year 2026, this French racing team will transition into a customer team, which almost certainly means they will be using engines supplied by Mercedes. In the background of this significant shift, Fred Vasseur, the team principal of Ferrari, has taken advantage of this situation to strengthen and enhance Ferrari's own engine department. There are several reasons why Alpine has decided to move away from using Renault power. However, the most important factor driving this choice appears to be financial considerations. The operation based in Enstone has determined that they are no longer willing or able to invest the necessary funds that are required to maintain a competitive engine program. Consequently, obtaining engines from another team is viewed as a more financially prudent decision for them going forward. Despite this decision, it is worth noting that Renault's engine department, located in Viry, had been diligently working on their engine for the 2026 season until just last week. Reports suggest that the employees at Renault were even exceeding the performance and development targets that had been set for them, indicating that they were making considerable progress. Thus, it becomes clear that performance itself was not the main reason behind Alpine's decision to change their engine supplier. This point is particularly relevant for competing teams on the grid, who may now be eager to enhance their technical crews by recruiting engineers and technicians from Renault. In a recent interview published by L'Equipe, it was confirmed that Ferrari has already begun to establish agreements to bring in former personnel from Renault. Team principal Fred Vasseur has even succeeded in signing these engineers without the typical gardening leave, which means they can make their way to the factory in Maranello quite soon. The influx of these seasoned technicians and engineers will not only expand the size of Ferrari's workforce, but also provide them with valuable insights and knowledge about the upcoming 2026 engine. After all, the technologies and concepts embedded in the Renault power unit could potentially contain innovative solutions that Ferrari has yet to explore or employ. Regardless of how impactful these new acquisitions are for Ferrari, it is quite evident that Alpine's loss will turn into a gain for other teams within the racing community. Historically, it has been a lack of financial commitment that has constrained the French team's ability to achieve greater success. Former team principal Otmar Safnauer previously disclosed that, upon his arrival, Alpine was operating tens of millions below the budget cap set for the sport. Taking all of this into consideration, especially with the context of Audi coming on board as a new manufacturer, it is clear that there will be a significant amount of activity resulting from Renault's departure from Formula One. This shift in the landscape could lead to numerous opportunities and changes as teams reposition themselves in light of this development. Fernando Alonso has recently put forward an interesting idea that a peculiar characteristic of the current generation of Formula One cars might be contributing to what has been a noticeable lack of safety car deployments during races. This situation begs the question of why, over the past 9 races, we have not seen the safety car come out at all, which is a remarkable occurrence. In fact, it is the first such instance since there was a similar stretch between the 2003 Hungarian Grand Prix and the 2004 Spanish Grand Prix. Notably, this streak has even included the very first Singapore Grand Prix that did not see the safety car called into action, marking a significant moment in F1 history. There seems to be no clear reason at the moment for why recent races have been relatively free of major incidents or crashes since the Spanish Grand Prix. However, Alonso has pointed out that the unique characteristics inherent to modern ground effect cars could play a role in this phenomenon. Specifically, he posits that these cars are able to perform better when they are not being pushed to their absolute limits, which may help explain the decrease in crashes during races. Alonso explained that while these cars can be quite challenging to drive, the issue might lie in how fully drivers push the cars. He mentioned that driving at around 90% of the car's capabilities can sometimes lead to faster lap times because drivers avoid putting the car in positions that cause instability, such as incorrect angles or ride heights. When a driver is not pushing the car to its extreme, they reduce the likelihood of incidents that can lead to accidents or equipment failure. So, paradoxically, maintaining a slightly less aggressive driving style can result in better overall performance. He elaborated on this point by discussing how the performance of current F1 cars can be perplexing, especially when they are driven right at the edge of their capabilities, a requirement that often comes during qualifying sessions. For example, Alonso cited his experience during the Baku Grand Prix as an illustration. He began qualifying in a disappointing P15 position, largely due to issues experienced by Lando Norris. Without that issue, he would have started in P16 for the main race and may have been eliminated in Q1. However, just 7 minutes later, after changing to another set of tires, Alonso found himself jumping up to P5 in Q2, improving his time by an impressive 1.1 seconds while driving in essentially the same manner. He pointed out that he was still braking at the same points and preparing for the lap in a similar way, yet the improvement in time was significant. Meanwhile, other drivers showed the opposite trend, being fast in Q1 but struggling in Q2. Alonso acknowledged the bafflement that sometimes accompanies these fluctuations in performance, leading to confusion about why certain drivers are fast at some times and slow at others. To understand these differences, he mentioned the extensive array of sensors that F1 cars utilize, which allow teams to analyze minute variations in performance. He noted that by delving into the data, they can identify specific circumstances that might lead to slower performance. It is possible that different attitudes the car takes while racing may make some setups less effective than others. All of this analysis leads Alonso to conclude that during races, drivers tend to pace themselves, often operating at around 90% capacity. They have to be cautious about managing not just tire degradation, but also fuel consumption, along with other racing strategies. Because of this moderated driving approach, there are fewer incidents or reasons to deploy a safety car. He highlighted that the cars tend to be much happier when being driven at this less aggressive pace. This is somewhat counterintuitive to traditional driver instincts, as new tires used in qualifying lead to the desire to push the car as hard as possible, potentially exceeding 100% effort. However, with this specific type of car, it is essential for drivers to learn how to manage their performance effectively while racing. Despite being widely recognized for their exceptional ability to enhance their performance during the middle of the racing season, Red Bull is currently facing a noticeable downturn in their results. The recent upgrades to their RB20 car have not produced the expected improvements, leading to a worrying lack of significant progress since the Japanese Grand Prix that took place back in April. In light of these difficulties, the team has had to make some difficult choices and sacrifices to try to turn things around. As a direct consequence of this decline, McLaren has now established a solid lead in the constructors' standings, consistently outpacing Red Bull in terms of points gained over the past few months. Given Sergio Perez's ongoing challenges this season, it seems unlikely that any enhancements to the RB20 will be enough to push Andrea Stella's team out of the top position in the standings for constructors. In response to this situation, Red Bull is directing all of their resources and energy toward ensuring that Max Verstappen can successfully defend his title as the drivers' champion. After several months where progress has stagnated, the upcoming American Grand Prix is crucial, as the team plans to introduce a significant set of updates that they hope will make a difference. One of the major concerns has been the increasingly unpredictable nature of the RB20, which many have pointed out as a primary obstacle to achieving better performance on the track. Verstappen himself raised the issue of poor drivability a few months back, and this problem has unfortunately continued to plague the car's performance throughout the entirety of the 2024 season. However, there seemed to be a glimmer of hope during the Singapore Grand Prix, where Verstappen acknowledged that the team had made some progress. The changes implemented at the Marina Bay circuit led to minor improvements, but it's clear that more substantial updates will be necessary to keep pace with McLaren's impressive rise in form. The team, led by Christian Horner, is committed to developing a more consistent aerodynamic platform for the RB20. This refinement will be vital for ensuring that any future upgrades can be even more effective in enhancing the car's competitiveness. While it makes sense to concentrate on the ongoing competition between Verstappen and Lando Norris, this strategy is not without its drawbacks. At a point when the majority of teams are beginning to shift their focus and resources toward developing their cars for the 2025 season, Red Bull does not have the luxury of completely redirecting their attention. Instead, they find themselves continuing to invest resources into refining the RB20. This situation inevitably implies that less attention is being given to the development of next year's car. Understanding their current limitations is undoubtedly crucial for shaping the design of the car for next season. It is apparent that Red Bull has had to reassess its approach after several months filled with disappointing updates and minimal progress. While teams like McLaren and Ferrari have a more defined strategy and clearer vision for their cars in 2025, the reigning champions, Red Bull, find themselves in a position where they are playing catch-up. It would be overly hasty to completely dismiss the capabilities of the Milton Keynes-based team, as it might only take a few minor advancements to bring Max Verstappen back into a competitive position against McLaren. Nonetheless, the evidence from the last 6 months strongly suggests that Red Bull is running low on innovative ideas and solutions. They have publicly acknowledged that they are encountering limitations with the current design of their car. After having dominated the early years of the current set of regulations, Red Bull is now facing increasing challenges from competitors like McLaren, Ferrari, and even Mercedes as they strive to regain their former supremacy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.